GM, everybody. We're back, CTA podcast with Pichi and myself, and today we've got Jason. So let's just do like a basic run through here. What do we do here usually week? Pichi, this is the second week we've done this. What are we doing?
Yeah, so we're basically talking the creator economy and specifically on Farcaster and how much it's changing. Because I feel like we've been promised this creator economy for years. Web 2 dominated it, and it's really not a creator economy. It's a how much money can Meta and Twitter make off of all of us. And we finally are coming to a point where the tools are aligning with what we actually want to do, right? Because of base, because of the cost, finally, we might actually have a real shot at a creator economy. And because Farcaster is building these Legos and kind of setting up these rails for us, I feel like we have a real shot of making this happen and having people actually make real money off their content and participation and their knowledge, even their collecting, right? Like showcasing the things that you love. There is room here for everybody. And I feel like for the first time, we're really close to this. And I think Farcaster is the way. And that's what we like to talk about, is all the tools that are available to people in this entire flywheel, right? Because it takes all kinds. It takes creators, it takes collectors, it takes supporters, it takes developers. Like, no man is an island here. We're all working together towards the same goals.
Absolutely. And last week, we kind of took a bit of a deep dive into hypersub and channels, and how that relationship, is there's a synergy between them, but it also kind of enables these like fun games that you can play with your community that you're building through these channels. And it's funny because then we started to kind of like talk about Moxie, but it was towards the tail end of the conversation. And it was more like, oh, by the way, if you haven't heard about Moxie, it's coming, it's happening next week. And so it's here, it's today, we're live. So we have Jason on. Obviously, I think, Jason, you've been hosting spaces on Farhouse. I think you were on GM Farcaster this morning. So you've really kind of been trying to get people to understand what is Moxie, what's the vision behind it, but kind of like what is the way that this is going to solve some problems, maybe create new problems in a good way, right? So yeah, I mean, without further ado, let's go. Pichi, did you have any questions you wanted to kick off with, or should we just have Jason do like a very high-level overview, and then we can just dive into the deep end with that?
Yeah, so I've definitely got some channel-specific questions as we go into things, but I'd love to give you the mic and let you open it up. And especially if I know you've been live for a few hours now, and I watched the GM Farcaster stream, to kind of see what you were talking about there. But I feel like now it's actually live. And if there's anything you want to say specifically now that you're watching it unfold, would definitely love to give you a chance to talk about that too.
Yeah, no, thank you all so much. First of all, it's launch day, so it's day zero. And, for the team, we've been working on this for a long time. I mean, I mentioned this on GM Farcaster this morning, but we really started working on a lot of these concepts in 2016. I mean, that's like 8 years ago. And over the last few months, we really accelerated the development of it. And I'll talk about everything kind of went from there to here. But even though today's launch day, it's not like today's the victory day. Today's like the start of now the process of building more and work with the community and getting more people to use it and getting more people to understand it. And I just want to first just say thank you to everyone in the entire Farcaster community who's been so gracious and so welcoming and so supportive as we've been working and rolling this out. One of the constraints that we gave ourselves, which, sometimes twisted us to knots and sometimes, kind of was not the easiest thing, is we gave ourselves a constraint that every critical action on launch day has to be done in a Farcaster frame. And so when you go to the AirStack, first of all, you go to the Moxie website, there's nothing to do there. Moxie is just a protocol. Moxie doesn't build any front ends. So if you go to moxie.xyz, you can learn about the protocol, you can get a developer doc, get the tools, just go build, but then Moxie doesn't build any front end itself. And so AirStack, the AirStack team, which initially built the Moxie protocol, we picked up the mantle of saying, okay, let's launch with the first user experiences. There's a whole bunch of other teams that are building user experiences as well. But when you go to the airstack.xyz website, you can't do anything there either. You can log in, view what fan tokens are auctions are happening. You can see kind of a summary as to what all the activity. But to go do anything, you have to go to Warpcast and use everything inside of a frame. And that was on purpose because we wanted to meet people where they are. And 99% plus of the usage of Farcaster is on Warpcast. And the Farcaster team, the Warpcast team, have given us these amazing tools to be able to build things inside of Warpcast. And so we gave ourselves that challenge of let's get everything going inside Warpcast. And so that's been kind of fun to go through. Like we're in the middle of the launch right now. I'd say that everything is going, I'd say, mostly smoothly. The market reception has been great. The Farcaster kind of community reception has been great. And we do have Ignis on our team is doing live troubleshooting with folks. Please just there's a cast me thread that we started in the Airstack channel on Farcaster. If you have any issues at all, just put something there and we'll help you out. Just want to say, but thank you again, and we're working through. I'd say there's no problems. It's all kinks. It's just like the unique experiences of doing everything size of frames. But we're working through that, and we're very glad that we made that decision. It was the right decision, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So let me just catch my breath for 1 second, and I'm walking through just like a little bit of the history here and what this is all about, and then I'll shut up and answer questions. So. Back in 2016, we had this idea of what if we could flip the creator economy model on its head. And instead of, the model where, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and, the like capture a large part of the rents, a large part of the money that creators make, and creators basically giving all their content away for free, we said, well, what if instead we can create a model where it's kind of win-win between creators and their fans in a decentralized environment where anyone can build applications into it. And we started to sketch out all these concepts such as like, well, if someone's content got popular, that means that a lot of people are appreciating it. And how would you then share the rewards of that content getting popular, both with the person who created it, as well as the people who helped make it popular, and kind of give everyone this notion of skin in the game, that we're all kind of succeeding and winning together. Back then, we mapped out all sorts of user experiences. We built an app called Peepo. It was the first kind of decentralized social network, but it was just way too soon. I mean, there was no layer 2 kind of on Ethereum then, so there was no Base, there was no Optimism, the wallet experience was awful, so there was no kind of embedded wallets, let alone being able to do a sign a transaction on a frame as we can do today. And it was just too early. It was just way too early. And fast forward, several years later now, and at the core of Farcaster is this amazing community. So we saw one is like, building technology in the long term overall is not that hard. It's building community is really, really hard. And so with Farcaster, we saw there's this amazing community. And then layered into that community, the Farcaster, Warpcast teams have given us just these incredible tools, incredible Legos that we can use. And so we thought the time was right now to try to layer on a solution like what we had, sort of conceptualized many years back, obviously modifying as we've been learning along the way. And that's what Moxie is, today that we launched. I mean, Moxie enables you at its core to buy fan tokens for any entity on Farcaster, for any member, for any channel. We consider channels are basically communities on Farcaster. And by becoming a fan, you share in the benefits and rewards that those entities are accruing. And you can also get access to special features that any developer can build that are only for fans. And to seed it, what we've done is we have a liquid token that launched today as well called Moxie. We thought it was important that everyone has skin in the game. We gave 53,206 Farcaster members a Moxie airdrop that gives everyone some Moxie in their pocket right away to play with. And using that Moxie, you have skin in the game. You can buy fan tokens. You can get the benefits when creators and channels communities earn rewards, and those rewards are automatically shared with the fans. And so when someone creates the content and people like that content and it earns rewards from the protocol, everyone who is a fan and is kind of helping that content grow and get discovered is benefiting. It's day one, so we purposely timed this to be like a slow, kind of like a crawl, walk, run kind of model. And what I mean by that is today we launched, I think it's the first 20 fan token auctions. These auctions last 72 hours. Then we're going to launch, I think it's like 45 tomorrow and another 50 the next day. And this thing will build day by day. And people get used to it, get the hang of it, and we'll learn a lot, and we'll create all sorts of value together. And I'll shut up and answer your questions now.
Do you want to go first, Pichi? I mean, I guess I have questions, but I mean, Pichi, if you have something, you said you had a few questions. If you want to get us started.
Yeah, I would just love to talk to you about channels, because I think channels are really, really popular on Farcaster, and they have not had their heyday yet. They're still kind of new compared to the rest of the protocol. I just learned recently that purple was the first channel. I had no idea, so I feel like channels are still in their infancy. And I think this is going to really start pushing people, right? So I think this morning you said if you don't cast to a channel, you're potentially missing out on distribution, but you're keeping more of the token for yourself. So is that a strategy people should really start to think about, is like, where do they cast? And is that going to really matter as this grows?
Yeah. First of all, I think people should already start to think about where they cast. I think, if you're a member of all these channels and communities, that there should be a thoughtful process. Okay, so where does this content go? Where's the best place for it? When we first, it's really funny how all this stuff just kind of circles back together. When we first mapped out these ideas years back, we had this notion of, well, what if you could buy a tag? And when you buy a tag, essentially it costs you some money to buy a tag, like a hashtag. And based on who you tag, what your hashtag you chose, that is like who would see the content. So you have to think really carefully about which hashtag you want to buy. And essentially that's what we've done here, because channels right now, for the most part, are like how to tag your content. And the people who, with the improvements that the Farcaster team has been making over the last couple of weeks, the home feed now is much better, showing people content from the channels that they're a member of in their home feed. And so you think about, essentially, is you're deciding where you want to tag your content. And you get one tag to choose. It's not like 3 or 5 or 10 hashtags on you have one tag to choose, and depending on which one you choose, it can give your content lots more distribution or non-distribution, TBD. And it's kind of like a trade-off, that if you want to buy that distribution, so to speak, you also share the rewards that you might get from getting that distribution. And so I think it's a really interesting model. I think it's going to work. And what's interesting also then to see is like the market price of those tags, right? So now that we have these fan tag token auctions launching, then the market is putting a price to how much that distribution is worth for everyone. And then I think the next phase is when we'll kind of go from, I think Farcaster channels today are more like tags, but they have the opportunity to be more like communities. And I think that evolution from tag to community is what the channel does with it, right? And so what you do with it in terms of, okay, we have all these fans, we have all these people who are paying to be fans of this channel. And we always say you have like free members as well, just followers of the channel. What do we as a channel want to do for the benefit of our channel members, to make them feel more like it's their community? It could be as simple as voting on certain things about the channel, deciding which promotions to take from third parties into the channel. It could be adding certain features, all sorts of different things that I think turns it from being a hashtag to a community. And I think it will get there for many of the channels, not all of them, but I think there's an opportunity there.
Perfect. And I know you had mentioned it in one of these sessions. I don't remember exactly which one, but you were saying like a lot of the automation moderation tools are also going to have Moxie capabilities. So I know that, of course, I assume AirStack is going to have it because you guys are building it. And I know John's working on it with AutoMod. So do you see that in a perfect scenario, people could layer all of these technologies together? So you could be having channel automation that is also rewarding fans, but you could also layer in hyper subs as well. Or do you think people are going to have to start breaking those things out? Like, I know right now several of us use hyper sub gates because it was kind of what was available. We didn't have fan tokens, and now do you see that those are two things that can work together, or do you think people are going to need to kind of choose to lean into one, or is there a world where those can overlap?
Yeah, I think the first part is I think we can all work together, and so I don't think it is you must choose one. John from AutoMod reached out to me and said, "Hey, I would like to start working on integrating Moxie fan tokens. I'll get it done by the end of the day on Monday." I was like, "Awesome." Johnny and I, talked about hypersub, and we're trying to find good ways to collaborate together. And I think that's how it should be, right? It shouldn't be that the creator has to, or the channel host has to pick a tool, and like that's only. I think these things should work together as kind of interchangeable kind of parts that kind of get better the more you use them. I would say that the Moxie kind of fan token is a little different than a hyper sub subscription, which is okay. I think there's only so many channels that are going to be able to sell subscriptions for their channels. And so like, charging someone, $10, $20, $50 a month for a subscription to a channel, I think that's a bit much right now, because I think, as I said before, I don't think the channels have really proven out to be really communities yet, as so much as just like hashtags. Now, I think on the other hand is, when you buy a fan token of a channel, then you have skin in the game at that channel. Like now you have, it's not just that you bought some access to the channel, but you also get a percentage of the rewards, and then you could have other things that relate to that down the road. But it's not going to, but for the channel host, it's not going to provide the same immediate return of, okay, 10 people bought my subscription, so I'm getting this amount of monthly revenue. So there's different aspects to it. And I would say there's like trade-offs, but I think we're going to find ways to bring a lot of these pieces together into creating new models together.
So I have a question, and there's also a question in the audience, so I'll bring that one up after. My question firstly is, you keep talking about fan tokens as kind of operating at the channel level. What are your thoughts in terms of like fan tokens at the creator level? So that they aren't necessarily so connected to a group entity, like a channel could be presumed to be like a group entity versus like an individual account. Is that something that you're like seeing that maybe there's a demand for, or did you see that demand but you just made the decision that channels was the way to kind of get started?
Just to be clear, like, so you can buy fan tokens for any person on Farcaster and for any channel. And of the we started off now with about 400 auctions. We have about 5,000 requests now for people who want to auction a fan token for either themselves or their community channel. We've only scheduled about 400 so far, so we're kind of going slow and kind of ramping up as we go. Of the first 400, most of them, predominantly like 75, 80%, are for members, not for channels. A lot of people said, I want to try first on the kind of member level before I do the channel. Other people just like jumped right in and said, let's do the channel. We want, it's all one giant experiment, right? But the way that I think about kind of fan tokens for members is, if people buy your fan token, first of all, it's permissionless, right? So if someone wants to buy your fan token, they can do it. You don't, as the subject of a fan token, you're under no obligation to do anything special for them. It's almost like you're buying LeBron James trading card. You're assembling your fantasy sports team. In this case, my fantasy team consists of, Linda and Burberry and Ted, and that's who I'm, kind of are my homies. And I earn rewards when they earn rewards, and that's like, so we're all winning together. So I support my friends, I support people I am a fan of. Now, if they want to also provide special features and all sorts of benefits to their fans, there are any number of applications who are building things like that. That's up to them, but there's no obligation for them to do so.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, that kind of vibes with kind of like what Pichi was just talking about, where a lot of us use hypersub, and through hypersub, sure, there's this kind of like relationship where someone can just like support us, by subscribing time to our hypersub. However, some of us choose to then add some other type of value to that relationship, where it's like, oh, you're going to get some NFTs, or you get one-on-one calls with me. Or for example, in my case, I'm like, anytime there's an IRL event happening anywhere around the world and I'm there, this is your ticket to kind of participate in some cool in-person experiences. So
which is awesome, right? So like you said, okay, every time, let's say if whoever's going to be a token 449, I'm going to have a special brunch for my fans. Go for it. It's like it's people who are supporting each other.
Yeah. So there's a question in the audience, and I want to bring it up because I want to make sure that we recognize the folks that are taking the time to ask thoughtful questions. We're on Unlonely, and the question is about the web app. They're saying buying on frames is cool. However, it can be cumbersome to scroll for users, request delays, etc. Why not also have a web app? You kind of answered this in the beginning about frames, but maybe something specific about the web app here. that you might want to?
I think it was first just we wanted to meet people where they are, and we've seen time and time again some really, really cool applications launch, and it's just impossible for them to get people to go from Warpcast over those applications. And so we wanted to start really embedded into the Farcaster experience. Now, at the same time, I acknowledge that there's limitations on that experience. We're monitoring it. For instance, we launched this morning, about 3-4 hours ago. We already shipped a new page on Airstack that shows you all of your bids. So if all the auctions you bid on. And so we heard from people, I bid in these frames and I can't find where my bids are. So, okay, but let's launch that. So we're reacting, listening, moving as fast as we can. We don't want to be another Farcaster client that nobody uses. We'll build something that is, if people are, demanding it and are actually going to use it, we'll absolutely build it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Pichi, did you have any more questions? I can keep going.
No, you keep going, and I'm going to think on what I want to ask next.
Okay. Well, so one of the things that I felt like I missed the boat on 6-7 years ago, because there was this kind of concept of creator tokens happening a while ago. I think one of the more well-known cases is Alex Mazmej from Dracula. He launched his creator token, and from that, he kind of was able to raise, right, for himself to move to the States. And, that's a story. It's pretty cool. But
can I tell you real quick, just interrupt?
Yes,
so
please.
When I mentioned we did the Peepo app, it was like crypto TikTok back in 2017, 2018. And the star of the show was Alex. Literally, he was the number one user. So we go way back on this. So keep going.
No, of course. And it's great to hear that you have a relationship and, there's already kind of some synergies there between what you were building then and what you're building now. I bring this up because I feel like there's probably a lot that we could have learned, then from both what was really good and what was exciting people and making this a viable use case, but also maybe what was limiting it at that point. What would you say are some of the things that you saw from previous eras, creator tokens to fan tokens as they exist now with Moxie?
Yeah, I think the key thing, first of all, is the owning a fan token needs to be much more than just speculating on someone. And we've really tried to build this in a way where it's first and foremost about utility. It's also about community. It's about supporting the communities, the channels, the people that you built these relationships with and you're building or you admire kind of on the platform. I think just the way that we structured the whole thing was really, I hope so that people recognize this, but we try to be really thoughtful around utility. So for example is 53,000 Farcaster members qualified for 53,206 qualified for the first airdrop. And they qualified based on their engagement the last 4 months and the quality of the engagement they received. And so it was not just, based on your FID. It was not based on your number of followers. It was based on what, the quality of content that you contributed to the platform in the last 4 months. Are you helping grow the network? The second is we put that airdrop on a 180-day vesting schedule. And I know that's super controversial because a lot of people think airdrop, free money, woohoo. But we're building this because we want you to use the protocol. So while you're, so if it was just giving out free money, then it's just launch a meme coin. That's not what we're doing here, right? And so I'm sorry to everyone who just wanted free money, but that's, my job is not to give you free money. My job is to try to grow something that, makes Farcaster really, really, really special and hopefully build something that Moxie was, help make that happen. And so what we did is the airdrop vests 1/180th per day over the first 180 days. But while it's vesting, you can use the entire amount or some of the amount to buy fan tokens. So it's you've got this kind of pocket of, that's out there. And if you want to play in the protocol, it's, feel free to go do so, play the game, see if you get benefit from it. That was a very purposeful decision. And then the other was just we made the very purposeful decision from the beginning that we're building a protocol, not an app. And so as anyone who wants to build with it, we want to encourage them to. We've already had a number of developers who've launched great experiences and many more in development that are making use of this as kind of foundational technology, Legos of their own that they can use built onto Farcaster. And we went so far also as already pre-announcing our first retro grant, which is 60 days after today, and we allocated 2.5% of the token supply to this retro grant for whatever anyone builds. And building is a capital B. It's like building could be creating a tutorial, a video, kind of a blog post. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're writing code. Building anything that helps grow the Moxie protocol and kind of gain kind of usage and utility and adoption. And by the way, we had no idea the token, who knows what'll happen to the price, but it's worth $200 million right now. So that's like $4.5 million worth of retro grant available for people in 60 days. Would be the biggest Farcaster hackathon ever, right? And so let's see what happens with that.
Well, I mean, I want to applaud you for the retro grant. One of the things that I've just always been fascinated by are retro PGF. I think Gitcoin has been doing that for quite some time. Optimism obviously has led the charge more recently, and I think more broadly with retroactively creating these incentives for folks to, or rewarding these folks through incentives to do some awesome stuff on the protocol. You also talked about the engagement, fan engagement, and the way that you retroactively then airdrop these tokens. I wonder if you can speak a little bit about the algorithm, right? And is that algorithm going to come back into play to, in some future Moxie game, or maybe that's part of how retro grants will work as well?
Yeah. So when you say the algorithm, I think you're talking about maybe about the social capital score that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So we built this with Moxie in mind, right? So we wanted to find a way to reward quality content, and to have it be determined based on how do you quantify was this quality or not? And the thing that we kept coming back to is when someone decides that they want to like something or recast something or comment on something, because it's a social network with a feed, it's not just them taking action on their own. When they take that action, they're signaling to everyone that follows them, hey, you might also, find this interesting, right? Because there's this network effect whenever you take that action. And so when we created the social capital score, what we tried to quantify is how much social capital are people spending every time they take that action. And then what we did is we launched this not a token kind of point system back in March, which kind of attributed basically value to every cast based on the social capital scores of who interacted. And it worked. It really worked. We built then trending feeds and things where you could see the top casts of the day. And it's a great filter for seeing what is really the high quality content. We monitored it for 4 months. It was never gamed. We continuously you look at it and say, should we improve it? We literally have not changed it once, in the last 4 months. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm sure we'll come up with things that need to be changed and affected, but it's working. And then what we've done is we just translate that into Moxie. Every time you cast, you're going to earn Moxie based on who interacts with your casts. The way that you earn is based on the social capital scores, the people who engage with it, and the type of engagements they make. And I think it's a good model. I mean, if Vitalik decides that he wants to engage with your cast, he spends a lot of his own social capital to engage with your cast. And you should earn a lot more than someone who has less social capital. And, we think it's a fair system. We've also seen a lot of examples over the last 60 days, especially of new people on the platform who, for whatever reason, whether it's Vitalik or Jesse Pollock or someone else, engages with their cast, and you see them earn a high amount. That's how it should be. We really like that. And then the way the fan token layers onto that is, so you earn from every engagement on your cast, but when you earn, you share with your fans. So if people are supporting you, and then you support them back. So we're happy with the way that's working right now, and obviously we'll continue to monitor and tweak it as we go.
Awesome. PG?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to ask you some super tactical questions that I see coming up on the feed where people are bidding right now. Are they supposed to be bidding how much Moxie they're willing to pay per token? Is that what they should be thinking when they're putting in their bids? And can they bid more as the auction comes to a close? Because I like that we have 72 hours, so it doesn't feel rushed. But I feel like some people bid really early, and some of the tokens are kind of, according to the clearing price, expensive right now. But I'm trying to figure out the tactical side of things. Should you wait? Should you bid now? Should you go with what the current Price is like, should you be using that as a guide, like the current clearing price, or should you be going over, like if you really want to win that token, the number of bidders? Can you talk a little bit about some of the tactical stuff now that we have some real data that everybody can see on airstack.xyz right now as a like an overarching view?
Yeah, and so the first thing is when you go to bid, it asks you two questions. It first says, what price are you willing to bid? So how many Moxie are you willing to bid? And you have to put a price of at least one Moxie. So you can say, I'm bidding for Linda's fan tokens, and I'm going to bid 10 Moxie or 100 Moxie. And it'll give you some clues as to like what the current high bid is and what the clearing price would be if the auction ended right now. And then you say how many of the fan tokens you want at that price. And so that's the two kind of variables you input is like, I want to pay, 10 Moxie and I want to buy 1,000, right? And then you'll be able to track on Airstack's website whether your bid is winning or losing. And you can increase your bid or cancel your bid up until 1 minute before the auction ends. And so I think we'll see a lot of people, and then there's a whole bunch of devs who are about to launch all sorts of ways to track these bids in real time and to see graphs and charts and all this kind of stuff on like which of the auctions having the most action and where the current clearing price is, and all that stuff is all on chain. So anyone can build whatever they want with it. And there's a number of people, we just weren't able to build everything ourselves. So there's a number of people who are building that right now. Those tools should be available for everyone to take advantage of fairly quickly. We hope it's not too confusing. We know it's a new concept, and keep the questions coming for sure.
Well, maybe we could take like the Farcaster network token as an example, because that's one of the first ones that went out today. Yep. That's the one where you're buying into the entire protocol. I think you've described it as an index fund. Sure. So if we look at that one now, that says there's like 80 bidders, the clearing price is right around 75, and there's 40,000 available tokens. So can you talk, like, if that auction ended right now, what do those numbers all mean? Would everybody be able to get enough tokens, or are we not sure how many each person bid for?
Yeah, so the answer to your question as to how many people bid for what is actually in the smart contract and the subgraph. So there are people who are working hard right now to expose all that data. We just didn't have a chance to expose it all on Airstack, but it's all public, so it's all there. What it means right now, and I just refreshed my screen, is what I'm seeing right now is that there have been 85 people who have bid, and the current clearing price is 92 Moxie. And what I also see is that the number that's been bid is 24,000. But I got to check that because it seems a little off. Let me check on this for you.
I'm also amazed at just how quick it's changing, because I reloaded my browser right before we started and the numbers are already going up. So, I mean, people are clearly excited and it's happening.
I think there might be I'm looking at this number called quantity bids, and I think there might be some calculation error in that. Let me check with the team and we'll get this updated the minute I'm off this call. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to like clarify a few things, because I think some of the confusion that's coming from people is like, everything's in frame, right? And I think you've reiterated that several times. Like, don't connect your wallet to any external sites. Everything is done on a frame inside of Warpcast, maybe on other clients. But I would tell people, like, make sure you know exactly what you're doing when you're connecting to all this stuff. Yeah. And I think you've reiterated that, like, only your profile and the Airstack profile, make sure 100% they're looking at yours, because this is unfortunately, because this is popular right now, this is going to be, I think, one of the frames that's going to get copied really quickly, the same way the DGen ones get copied, and we start to see scam accounts pop up and start messaging people. So just to reiterate to everybody, there is no other website to go and claim your airdrop. This is all done in frame. You should only be looking at Betashop or Airstack official accounts and check it 6 times before you click and do that transaction to make sure you're on the correct stuff. And what about exchanges? So I think some people realize today that Some of these tokens might go a little high. Some of these channels might be more interesting. A lot of people are excited about the Farcaster one, and they want to purchase more tokens. And I know that there were 2 official places today, and more might open up. But what should the average person do if they want to go buy some Moxie right now so that they can start making higher bids?
Yeah. So first thing first, as you said, be careful out there. Once there's money involved, scammers are going to try to come take your money, try to drain your wallets. That's one of the reasons we purposely do not have a claim kind of button or anything on the Moxie site or the Airstack site. The only place you can claim is in frame on Farcaster, and if that creates a little friction, great. Like it's fantastic. It's gonna be very hard for people to to scam that. The other thing is. The only place that you can buy fan tokens is also through our frames on Farcaster, and there's no way to buy a fan token without a Moxie pass. And so it's gonna be very hard for anyone to game that. That would be quite exceptional if someone really was able to do that. But be careful out there, right? Look for the official kind of frames from us. In terms of where to buy Moxie, so one is we want people to use the protocol, so we are committed to making sure that people who want to use the Moxie protocol are able to get Moxie in order to do so. We launched today with 2 centralized exchanges and 2 decentralized exchanges. So Moxie is available on Aerodrome, Moxie is available on Uniswap, Moxie is available on KuCoin, Moxie is available on Gate. And the centralized exchanges, I know not everyone in our community loves centralized exchanges, but the reason why we launched on the centralized exchanges is they are important to give the project liquidity and visibility. If we just launched on the DEXs, it mostly would have been just Farcaster members kind of trading with ourselves. And this gives the project much more visibility and gets the market to price it. And we can get more people to come into Farcaster because of this. And then we can raise awareness for the overall Farcaster network. And so that we thought was important to do alongside the decentralized exchanges. We'll continue to look for more ways for people to be able to buy Moxie if they need it.
Perfect. And the last point I wanted to ask you to kind of reiterate was your tokens are vested, but you can use those tokens today if you want to participate in all the auctions, correct? So it's more if you want to sell and get out, well, too bad. You've got to wait. But if you want to use your entire airdrop and spend it on fan tokens and channel tokens and the Farcaster network token, you can spend that entire airdrop today if you wanted to, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the key thing is if you want to use your airdrop to use the protocol, it's 100% usable right now. If you want to use your airdrop to cash out, you can cash out 180th per day for the next 180 days. Now, we have this other mechanism where every day you can earn rewards based on the quality of the content you're creating on Farcaster. And those rewards have no vesting to them. So if you earn a reward today because people liked your cast, 24 hours after the day that you earned it, so let's say, the end of the day, later today, Monday, for beginning of Wednesday, you'll be able to claim that reward and immediately use it. You can use it to buy more fan tokens, or you can use it to cash out, whatever you want. That's up to you.
Perfect. So I'm hearing cast some bangers today so that you can start earning some Moxie so you can buy more fan tokens over the next couple of weeks.
Cast bangers every day. If we accomplish nothing but getting people to post more better content on Farcaster, then we all win.
Awesome.
Yeah. If it's okay with you guys, I'm going to jump off and try to chase some bugs. Is that cool?
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
We appreciate so much.
This has been really rad. Well, Pichi and I will keep chatting about this and keep tracking it. Excited for you and the team.
Thank you. Look, it's the beginning, and we're excited for the community. And thank you, everyone. And if you see stuff that's not working, let us know. We'll do our best to fix it. We really appreciate everybody.
Fantastic.
Great. Thank you. Have a great time. Bye.
Cool. Oh, we're going to keep going here. Pichi, I mean, it sounds like you've been tracking this for some time. You've been on this longer than I, and I'm not surprised, obviously, because I mean, you are very good at staying abreast of kind of all of these novel applications. Are you signed up? Are you ready to go? Do you have your fan token all set up?
So yeah, my fan token is actually going to be in a few days. I'm going to Basecamp and Fest, and I was a little worried about I read the lore of how Base was started, and it was basically on Starlink out in the woods. And I was like, I do not have a Starlink account, so what would happen if I didn't bid on my own tokens or my own channels and I didn't have internet access? So I asked if I could kick that can a week down the road, and I'm glad I did, because I'm actually having a lot more fun watching and bidding on this first round of people than maybe if I was in it as well and had to be kind of stressing about that at the same time.
Absolutely. By the way, I have a comment. We have a comment on the Lonely channel. It says, it's Qualia saying, never knew it's pronounced peachy and not Pichi. Am I mispronouncing them?
No, it's totally peachy.
Okay, good. I figured peachy just seemed like the way. But then when I read that comment, I was like, "Uh-oh, am I messing this up somehow?"
No, it's funny because it's very debated, and I never really thought about it because it's a nickname that comes from when I used to work in Japan. So I would be P sensei, like, so sensei is like kind of the highest honorific you can have, and that's because I was kind of a guest. And then after work, if we went out for drinks, I would become P-san, which is like a little more kind of Mr. or Mrs. type thing. Like, it's still like very polite, but not as formal as like doctor or the kind of thing. And then after dinner, if we went out for karaoke, I would become P-chan, and that's like a very, very friendly honorific of, hey, we're friends, we're cool. And then by the time we went out for the last round of drinks before last train, I would become Peachy. And that's like a very cutesy nickname, normally reserved for like babies and like pets. Like, it's not actually something you would really call people. And I loved it because I was finally feeling like closer to my coworkers. And then come 9 a.m., it would be back to Ohayo gozaimasu, P sensei, like way back to formal. So it was always a running joke for me, like, please, no, please, can I be Peachy again? And they're like, no, that's only for like very far after work, very, very informal. Not okay. Not
It's only a 12 a.m. name, okay? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad we got some context, and I agree with you. The honorifics in Japan are pretty cool. And I actually had never heard of Chi. I'd heard up to like Chan and Kun, but never Chi. So you taught me something new today.
It's very informal, and my Japanese friends are always like, wow, your coworkers must have been really wasted to give you that much of a nickname. And I said, yes, but it was like, it took years to like get them to that point where we could like have kind of fun nicknames when we were drinking. So I was very happy to have acquired a nickname, even if it was more something you'd call something really cute like a pet or baby. I was like, I'll take it. Like,
yeah, I mean, rad. I mean, it's to be able to connect at that deep level. And I mean, honestly, that's the whole point of today's conversation too, right? It's like we're trying to create these deeper connections. We're trying to find the tools to do so. I think last week we did a tremendous job at kind of tying in hypersub. I mean, it would have been rad to have Johnny on, but these things are developing. We're still figuring out what it's going to be like. We didn't know we were going to have a guest today, and considering it was launch day, I sent a message over to Alex and to Jason. I was like, would y'all want to jump on? We're going to be talking about this today anyways. And, it's really cool to see Jason take us up on that offer and come up here and kind of talk about that, especially as it is launch day. I'm sure they've got quite a bit on their plates to do today.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine. I'm just looking at the help thread, and everyone's realizing like the importance of like connected wallets and what happens if you have multiple, because that gives a lot of developers challenges, and a lot of people don't realize that they have a custodial wallet that Farcaster created for them. And if you haven't done another wallet and now you're trying to claim today, the wallet you maybe used with your money in it is not the same wallet. So I think this is surfacing some of those issues where we forget, because you just download Warpcast, you pay your $5, and magically the app works. But this is actually built on top of blockchain. So there's a lot of little nuances there. And I'm sure the team is figuring that out. And we might actually get some really good, I think, discussions about like wallets. And a big thing for me is like wallet hygiene. Everything I know about wallet hygiene, I have abandoned to participate in Farcaster and gated chats. And I have like my purple tokens in my Farcaster connected wallet, and I would rather not have them there, but that's how you get in chats. That's how you access a lot of things, right? A lot of frames look for your connected wallet to make sure you have an NFT to participate. So it does get a little hairy, and I've had to move things from my custodial wallet to my actual wallet or to my Coinbase wallet if I'm on mobile. So I think this is a good shakeup for everybody to not feel pressured, because we do have 3 days, right? Like, you're not going to miss out. If today you're having issues, don't panic. You've got plenty of more time, and you've got plenty of more channels and creators tokens that are coming up. So like, don't panic. They're going to get it worked out. And I think Jason's point of a little bit of friction is good to make you really think, what am I connecting to? What am I doing? Why is it not working? What is not set up correctly? Or what wallet is it looking for versus the wallet I'm using? Like, these are good things for all of us to think about and be reminded about and have top of mind, because we are being a little loosey-goosey, I think, with having things connected, to the protocol. And I know that's on the team's radar, and I know a lot of people are thinking about that long term, especially with a bunch of DAOs that want to be Farcaster native, that those DAO tokens, can be quite pricey, and you don't want them really sitting in a hot wallet, and your Farcaster wallet kind of is a hot wallet. So we're all struggling with that, and maybe that'll start up some good discussion as we kind of shake out this protocol and show the importance of knowing which wallet your assets are in.
Yeah, it's funny because Jason said, right, that the goal, if anything, is to try to get more good content on the platform here on Farcaster. But it also is having us have these really important discussions, like you said, about wallet hygiene, and even to understand just generally how Farcaster works. Because, yeah, I mean, it just generally works for the most part. And so because of that, because we've done such a great job at abstracting a lot of the technology, I think many of us are unfamiliar with the way that it works on the back end. And when products like Moxie drop, we're kind of left asking a lot of questions. So it seems like the team's going to be doing a lot of the work that the Farcaster team probably should be doing better at, in order to have people use Moxie and use it well.
Yeah, and look, that's a great thing. Like, I know people might have heard, but I don't know if they really heard when Jason was talking about the retro grants, right? Like, you have 2 months to dig in. So if you want to write about Moxie, if you want to talk about Moxie, you could probably just go through the thread today and make a FAQ out of that and potentially get a retro grant just for trying to put together some information to help out some other people, right? So even if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know enough about this, even just asking the questions or putting the questions together, like, that could be a stepping stone for getting conversations going and for tying this back in. And I like what he said, it's build with a B. It does not mean you have to create an app or code or a frame. You could be creating, something that explains it in layman's terms, or something that, does an analysis of how did the first 3 auctions go? What should people's strategies be? Like, if you're a technical charts person, this could be a great opportunity to actually get a grant for taking skills and knowledge you already have and applying it to this, right? So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity out here for everybody. And I think this is going to help that flywheel. Like you said, good content is going to win. And I think maybe some of the stuff we were talking about last week, right, with like the spam filters really coming into play. And I'm not sure if other people's notifications have gone crazy this week. We're all kind of guessing, like, what does that mean? Like, does that mean changes to power badges are coming, or, changes to how your home feed looks? And I think some of this is really starting to encourage people. Like, you have to think of your timeline as your kind of your presentation or your resume. So I've encouraged a lot of people that if you want to play games and you want to hunt airdrops, you might actually need a second account to do that, because your primary account, that's going to be what I would quote, say, like your fan token account, like the account you're known for, you want to have as much good content as possible. And if all you do is recast other people's frames to say, claim this airdrop or play this game or join this wait list, like you're not going to look very valuable to the network. And I think we're already starting to see a lot of folks getting labeled spam who are not necessarily spam. They're just probably using the protocol not the way the Warpcast team envisioned, right? Like the Warpcast team has told us time and time again, cast interesting content, cast something original today that's not somewhere else. Yeah. And they do want people to play with frames and they want them to do that stuff. But I really think people are going to have to challenge themselves now that your cast can work for you and can make money for you. What are you going to cast? And maybe think twice about that recast or think twice about that like what does that present to the world? What are you showcasing? Who are you supporting? How does that look on your timeline? How are you contributing to the protocol? And I feel like that's probably a bit different vibe than maybe May, when we were all just like cast everything and see what sticks and see what hits and see what's engaging and what's not. Maybe that definition of engagement is going to actually change over the next few months as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's funny though, because when I first joined Farcaster, my goal with it was just to have fun. Because I felt like my persona on Twitter was becoming much more professional. It's like my persona on LinkedIn is professional. That's just, it's built for that, right? My persona on Twitter was fun, but as you said, like as your timeline becomes your resume, your portfolio, or the way that you present yourself, right, your CV, then you kind of have to change the way that you communicate and yes, what you share. And so I was like, it's becoming so inflexible. I want to have fun. And then Farcaster came out and it was incredibly fun because I could just have random conversations, share random thoughts about what I was doing, who I was connecting with, things that I found interesting. But I feel like it's slowly having to also adapt in order to fit this new narrative. And I agree with you. I think that Farcaster is becoming a place where, at least to those who you wish to communicate ideas or connect with and build with, where you can do so. But the better you are at communicating your thoughts, at crafting a narrative around things that are important to you and your values, the better you're going to perform on the platform. But now with these like fan tokens, the more likely that you're going to be able to create a community around that too, right? Because that's also something that Jason said when he was up there, is like, we want to take these channels from just being this tag and where we're aggregating information that is similarly aligned to building communities. And when I think communities, I think about values and value alignment. So yeah, I think that you're right on. You're spot on with that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. So I think one thing maybe people aren't really thinking about, and you might not have seen unless you were very active in Pearl when they changed over to social capital score. It's like kind of how important it is, like who interacts with your content, right? And I think Jason said this a few times, like, don't worry so much about your own social score, because me posting in my own channel doesn't magically give me like a million Moxie points, right? Like it doesn't actually give me any. It has to be other people find my content engaging and worth interacting with, right? So like I can't benefit myself by just casting random nonsense into random channels. That doesn't work. Other people have to engage with it. And I think what a lot of people miss out on is that replies count, right? So like conversations matter, because it could be that you're not the top level cast, but you go in and respond with something really interesting. A lot of people read it. A lot of people, like it or continue to engage with it. You can get just as much Moxie, if not more, than the original caster with a reply, because to the protocol, a cast at the top level and a reply are the same exact thing. It really doesn't differentiate them. So you're not getting more Moxie points for having the top level cast. It's all about who engages with your replies and your cast, and it doesn't really matter the order that they're in. And a lot of us who were playing Pearl and trying to really understand that social capital score, we would notice when looking on Airstack that, hey, one of my replies got, way more traction than anything else because the 3 or 4 people that interacted with it were very high value casters, right? So I think a lot of people forget that you might not have to be like the content creator to do well on Moxie. You could just be answering people's questions, right, that they're having and helping them solve an issue or saying, oh, I saw a cast about that, this might be helpful, and still do very well. So you don't have to be a content creator to succeed on this level of the protocol. And I think that's probably different from everything else, right? Like Dracula wants you to be the content creator. Zora wants you to be the artist. Pods and some of the music stuff, you've got to be the musician. There's not many places where you can just give your expertise and have that valued. And I think Moxie's going to really change that to say, no, it's worth joining a community. It's worth replying. You don't have to be the content creator. You can just produce amazing knowledge and share your amazing knowledge and help people out. And that's just as valuable as the person who made the art or the person who made the code.
Yeah, I mean, and that's community building, right? I mean, it goes beyond, it transcends the individual, right? And it really is about this connection, this shared connection. And I think for me, I'm very excited to kind of watch your journey, Pichi, because I think you are such an amazing host. Like your channels, like there's the people really come together there and they want to connect and share, either something that they're building or something that they're or interact with the content that the other people have created as well. And you are, I think, the queen of replies, because I think at one point you said you had been marked as a spammer because you are so consistent with replying and responding to people, which that's at its core community building. So to be, tagged as a spammer because you're doing what community building is meant to do, I thought that was funny. But to say that I'm very excited to watch your journey with Moxie as well, and I'm putting my notifications on for when your fan token is live.
Thank you. Same. Yeah, I'm really excited to see if this can help. Like Jason said, right? Like right now, the channel host has a lot of power, and I think that's still very true. And this is where we started to touch on this last week. Like the best thing you can do on Warpcast right now is buy a channel and play with it, play with the moderation tools, play with the default settings so you understand. And especially now that Moxie's adding this layer where if you buy into a channel, for instance, there's some channels that are super stale because they're hosted by one person. That person's not super active right now. So if you're casting into that channel and it doesn't go onto the main feed, nobody sees it, right? So there is like visibility issues. So I think the average person doesn't really think like, oh, well, which channel should I cast in? I'll just pick one, not recognizing every channel is owned by an individual. Every individual is building something different. Some are very strategic. Some people like don't care, don't even realize there's been changes, don't change the defaults at all. They just don't have time, right? They set up a channel a year ago, didn't really think about it. So there's lots of things I think for users to think about with channels. But the potential is that instead of just the host benefiting, if you buy the fan tokens to that channel and then you contribute on all levels, right? You're replying, you're in there, you're building that community. If that channel does well, you do too. Whereas a month ago, a channel doing well, really the only person who in theory could make money off of it was a host if they put some sort of gate on it, like an NFT or a hyper sub. But now it's true that everyone can benefit from that ownership. And that takes something that today is owned, moderated by one person, still true in the future, but now if that moderation is pretty flexible, if that person really wants to see that community succeed, you can suddenly have thousands of people who have, a reason to come post there every day and to come and reply, and replies equal Moxie, right? And engagement equals Moxie. And like this can be a really good win-win to get people to focus less on what's going to be my, 5 top level casts today, and instead to just go back to, like you said, having fun and enjoying and having conversations, that maybe that pressure to constantly create or constantly cast is suddenly not so intense. It's like, no, just go participate in the channels you like, the channels you want to be a participant in, the channels you want to take part ownership with, and it'll work out. Everybody will benefit. And that's a very different, 3 months down the future outlook than what we had 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think in addition to what you said earlier too, by the way, and I think you're just reiterating that here, is we were talking about wallet hygiene and kind of learning the way that like Farcaster works on the back end with your wallets. And everybody who's listening to this, like if you have questions about connected wallets, go to the Crypto Sapiens channel. We'll be happy to continue this conversation there. But I'll also say that it's important that you do a little bit of like housekeeping around the channels that you follow too. It sounds like because channel hygiene is going to be very important too in terms of the way that the information gets surfaced to your feed, and then building that community and being able to like reply and connect. And if you were planning on like creating your own fan token to get basically the right incentives plugged in, because you'll have a community of people that's already following you and is aware of the content that you create because you're consistent, and your stuff doesn't get hidden, or if not hidden, just doesn't really surface onto the main feed.
Yeah, and I think that's the great thing about permissionless, right? Like if there's a channel and it's a topic and you think the topic's interesting, but the channel's not very well run or it's not very engaging, like build your own version. Like there's plenty of room here. And for folks that might be thinking like, well, it's too late, the auctions are done. Like, no, that's not true at all. Like you can spin up a channel today and get in the queue for maybe 3 or 4 weeks from now. So you've got runway to start building up that channel, tell people what you want to do with it. And you'd be amazed at how many people want to support, right? Because like you said, everybody still wants to have fun, even if we're being a little more conscious of kind of the personas we show on our timelines. Because of narrowcasting, you can still play games, you can still do some really fun stuff. And I've enjoyed playing Far Castles a lot, and I still want to keep playing, and I can't wait for their fan tokens, because I'm like, oh, I cast here all the time anyway, like why not be part of it. So I think there's going to be some ways to still have fun and make a little money off the side. And there's still a lot of white space, right? So even if there's 20, like there's a ton of photography channels, right? But they're all handled a little differently. And, if you want to do a channel just for iPhone pictures, like you can make that, right? Like it's like Reddit, just create another subreddit, do something a little different, tell people why you're doing it, what's your motivation, and you'd be amazed at how many people jump in and say, oh yeah, that's great. Like I don't want to compete with professional photographers. I want to just take fun pictures of my cat, or fun pictures of my dog or my food or whatever. Like there's space for you here. You just have to find those communities. And if you don't see them, build them, because there's still plenty of time. And like, this is still kind of ground floor. Like you're not too late. I think Moxie's going to change that channel game. And if you don't have a channel yet, this is like day zero, like Jason said, right? Like we're still in the very, very beginning. Soon it'll be self-service in the next few weeks. So go ahead, start your first channel, play around with it. And if you want to start making tokens out of it, try. Like what's the worst that happens, right? Like you're the only person that buys them, and then you just got to make a cool channel. But as we're seeing from the auctions, like people are getting pretty into it.
Yeah, I think that we haven't even started to scratch the surface on what this is going to end up being, because as Jason said, they're learning as this is going live today. And who knows, maybe in the future there will be kind of some interesting adaptations to community feedback as well, which will then kind of add new ways of kind of like building your community and incentivizing people to basically get your fan token. So Pichi, thank you so much for your time today. This has been pretty rad. This was definitely very different from last week. I don't know what next week is going to look like, but I'm excited to see you IRL at Fest.
Me too. I'm really excited, and I hope we'll see some more people that are on the stream today, because I know a lot of folks are going to base, but even more folks are going to Fest. So I think it's going to be a really fun week next week, and it should be interesting to see what gets posted to Farcaster, and how active the community is with like all these different things going on at once, right? Like new tokens will be launching, new people will be launching. It's getting exciting. The DGen claim is going to be this week. Like it's an exciting week. So I think it's going to be a lot of craziness, and we'll see if that goes into changes for season 7. How is Degen going to play with Moxie? Like, we're really starting to see the next evolution of Farcaster, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
100%. I remember how frames really changed the narrative on Farcaster, and then Degen certainly. I think Moxie is potentially what's going to accelerate channel adoption and better content creation. So I'm here for it. If you're at Fest, definitely look us up. And if you want to keep the conversation going, join us in the Crypto Sapiens channel on Farcaster. Happy to chat with you all there, and we can jump in the DMs if you have any more questions after that. Without further ado, we'll see you next week. Probably back to the Wednesday schedule, but we'll confirm early in the week.
Sounds good.
Cool. Cheers. Bye, everybody.